treasures the Bible talks about are things that we can, there are treasures on earth that they says that destroy and they don't go beyond this life. And then there's treasures that go on into something that goes beyond this life. And that's where it uses that firm foundation. When we invest in things that last, those are rock solid. Those will stick with us. Those are things that never change. And so those can be things that oftentimes it talks about that affect us as a person. Like if we're character, like we're more friendly and we're more loving and we're more kind to people and we're more patient in the way that we do things. Those are all character things that are treasures that are stored up, that God uses that to change us so that goes beyond in our life. But it also talks in here, though, but we experience, it says, a life that is truly life. And I think it's important to note that. Because sometimes we can think, oh great, I'm going to do all these things that, when I go to heaven, I get a key to a locker and I open it up and there it all is, And yeah, there are rewards that we have that we enjoy in heaven. But we miss out on the fact that what the Bible says to us too is that we get to, when we take this stuff in our life and this cart, those things that last, we get to enjoy them now too. That it affects our life even now, that we live not a false life, it says, when we pursue wealth, but a life that truly is life, that it's being discussed. There was a school called Harvard. It's not an important school, but if you go to it, I'm sure your parents would love it, particularly if you pay for it. It's a big school, okay? And they did a study, and in that study, they found out, in fact, there was I saw it just a couple weeks ago, and it was a Parade magazine. Paying it forward pays off. And what that study showed was that when people show kindness, when people are generous to other people, it affects that person. And they pass it on and they become more generous to other people around them. When we show kindness, it affects them and goes beyond. So we're able to see that, how generosity becomes real and how it has an impact in our life. But also that it also, in fact, it changes us. If you ever showed, in our house we watch Extreme Makeover Home Edition. And almost every show you will see people who volunteer to help build a house who will say, you know what, I'm the one who benefited from this, not them. I'm the one who was really changed and affected. The act of being kind and generous changes me. God uses it not just because, oh, I need to help someone here, Mark, go help them and good luck and they're all fine. But he says, I want you to help them so that, Mark, you get changed. That each one of us gets changed. And that's what's unique about this, because really what we understand in generosity is that very act of giving is really an act of receiving. Let me say that again. The very act of giving away to people and help them really is about receiving something even better for us. The things that value, the things that last. Jesus said in Matthew 16:25, "For whosoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for me will find it." It's that weird thing about Christianity sometimes where it doesn't make sense, but it's understanding that that's when we give away, we end up benefiting a lot more. That's the stuff that's eternal. Now, the question I want to really leave us with, because we're about to head off here, is that what are you putting in your basket? I mean, you guys have got, your kids got small baskets right now because you're just getting started. But even now, you're putting stuff in your basket. Maybe most of the stuff is stuff that's just for this life. But you can be doing things right now that are things that are storing up for something far greater than what you have. And so I want to challenge you this week to start doing stuff like that. Thinking about stuff that you can do that goes beyond anything that is just for this life. And when you think of that, it's about thinking of the stuff that where you're with God and helps you keep focused on God, that you believe in Him and that you care about Him. Those are valuable things that go in the basket. Think about things where God is using you to carry on and help something God's doing. Those are things that go in your basket. So in school, for example, which you don't have anymore, but think about it for next year. When you see a friend that's crying or sad or something like that, coming alongside them and taking the time to encourage them and be a friend to them, those are things that last. Those kind of things. But also being aware of what's going on around you when you go out in the street and starting to have a habit of generosity. For you parents, I want to encourage you to think about then what's in your basket. Look at your checkbook. What is the stuff you spend on those last 30 days? How many of those things do you think are things that you're going to take with you? How many of those things are things that you think, you know what, I get to enjoy it here, but when it's done, it's done. And back to that idea of that picture of pretty much heading through just with the clothes on your back. Or is there stuff that's lasting and going far beyond that? And so the challenge this week, and there's stuff in an insert you have there, is to be able to commit to being generous at least once a week. Look for opportunities that you can have. And in the insert that you have, I give you some stuff to be able to kind of practice on. For those who may be listening on, it's on the website that they can go to as well to see it. But the practice of going through and looking for ways that God would use you to be able to become more generous in the people around you. I gave you a bunch of ideas, and I want you to focus on that a minute, because here's what's going to happen. I want us to practice this. And for the next 45 minutes, because we're going to have lunch here together at 11:30, and you're invited to come back if you're a guest here. I apologize because this is kind of a freaky church, but we're not like this every week, but it's a good thing. And so come back and find out just how freaky we are by staying around, or you can participate too. So I want you to be a part of this as well. But what I want us to do is understand the church doesn't end in the walls here, but the church really begins when we go out into the community, and when we go out and let God use us around in the neighborhood and the people around us. So here's what we're going to do. When you leave here now, I'm going to end with prayer, and then you're just going to go. There's no closing song or anything, because really we haven't closed the service. We will close the service at 12:30 after we eat, because when we come back, we're going to have anybody who wants to share stories of their experience of what they had. It's not going to be I say freaky, maybe I use it too much. It's not that big of a deal. I think it's something that's doable. But what we're going to do in a few minutes, you're going to be invited to leave, and there's going to be a guy handing out envelopes. And in that envelope is anywhere from $10 to $20. And so you are going to take that, and you're invited to just give it away somewhere, somehow, in the next hour. You can add to it if you want. You can find someone else and buddy up and say, hey, let's put ours together to go do something. But be creative. Do whatever you want to do. And obviously it's not your giving if you're giving the money we gave you. That's not the point. The point I want for us to experience is this act of generosity. Because you can even go, for example, and buy coffee for someone at Starbucks. Not yourself, someone else. And I take mine black, venti, but no, not for me either. No. But here's the thing. It's understanding that what seems like a very unchristian act, we don't know how it impacts the person. The other day I was struggling with trying to just make a decision on an expense, and I thought, we're just hurting for money. I don't know if I can spend it. And I got a call that same day from a lady who says, Mark, from someone I know from Ripon, he says, God just laid on my heart to give you $1,000, which covered the expense that I was wanting to do it. Now, I'm not one to sit there and try to really think, ooh, but it was a moment where, to her, she had no idea what I was going to do with it. But for me, it was like God talking to me. You can sit there and go buy someone a cup of coffee somewhere and think, well, how are they going to know Jesus from that? And yet they could be standing in line with no money and thinking, I'm just fed up with life. God, I don't even know if you're real. And something like a simple act of kindness of a coffee could think, wow, look at that. Who knows what they say? But obviously there's plenty of other things you can do. And so there's some ideas. You can go and take it, and you can go find any person on a street corner, any person for that matter, but even those who are always asking for help, and you can give them the cash. You can go to McDonald's and buy coupons and hand them that. You can do whatever you want to do. You can go to the store and buy flowers and bring them to a convalescent or a retirement place. So you can go and buy treats and cookies or whatever, bring it to the firehouse and say thank you. You can go buy a gift card for someone or someone you know in need and stick it at their door, whatever you want to do. Okay? What I'm going to pray is that God would help you see how the experience of generosity through this in your own life, and that it would carry forward to the things that you can do. It's not about the money. It's about that experience of letting God use you in something that He is doing.